Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to those of you that are joining us on the live stream. My name is Paul Holden, and I'm the President and CEO of the Burnaby Board of Trade, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you here today for the State of the City address with Burnaby Mayor Mike Hurley. Before we start, I'd like to take a moment to recognize that we're on the traditional homeland of the Hunkaminam and Skohomish-speaking people, and to extend our appreciation for the opportunity to hold an event on this territory. Today, given the remaining restrictions of COVID-19, we've chosen to hold this event online so that all of you at home and in your offices are able to participate. But as you know, because of our vaccination campaign, those regulations have been loosening, and BC has moved into step 3 of the restart plan, which enables us to have some in-person events again. So what you're watching on your screen now is very much happening live, right here, right now, in Burnaby, coming to you from the Delta Hotel by Marriott Burnaby Conference Center, with a small group joining me here in person. Today's event, the State of the City Address, is a unique opportunity to hear an official update from the Mayor of Burnaby on the priorities of the city, the actions undertaken over the past year, and where the city is going next as we continue to grow and mature as our own urban center. Today's session will feature a presentation from Mayor Hurley from the podium here, and then a discussion afterwards with myself and looking at some of the questions that have been submitted in advance, sitting in a nice fireside style just up here on the stage. So let's get started. I'd like to start off thanking our sponsors. The Burnaby Board of Trade in general, and this event in particular, wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors. And I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of today's State of the City Address. First of all, our platinum sponsors, Simon Fraser University. SFU is Canada's leading comprehensive university, and Burnaby has had the great fortune to be the home of SFU for over 50 years. And they're a tremendous catalyst for economic growth in our city and across the region. Thank you to SFU. Fortis BC. Fortis provides natural gas, electricity, and propane to more than 1 million customers in the 135 communities across the province. Fortis is a great partner of the Burnaby Board of Trade, and we thank them very much as well for their support and engagement. And Pacific Blue Cross. Pacific Blue Cross has been BC's leading benefits provider for over 75 years and provides health, dental, life, disability, and travel coverage for approximately 1.5 million British Columbians from their base right here in Burnaby, where they're a major employer, a great corporate citizen, and a fantastic supporter of the local business community. Thank you, Pacific Blue Cross. We have a number of gold sponsors as well, and the gold sponsors that have joined us for this event today include Hemlock Printers. Hemlock Printers is Canada's most environmentally sustainable printer and one of the leading commercial print providers in North America. They've been an instrumental member of the Board of Trade for many, many years, and we thank them for their additional support here today. The Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, representing the Port of Vancouver, handling 142 million tonnes of cargo worth $200 billion a year. The Port of Vancouver is Canada's largest port, is a pillar of our supply chains, and is essential to the strength of our economy. Thank you to the Port of Vancouver. Trans Mountain operates Canada's only pipeline system transporting oil products to the West Coast. The Trans Mountain expansion project will provide increased capacity to support Canadian oil production growth and ensure access to global markets for Canadian energy producers. Thank you to Trans Mountain. And Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts is a global leader in digital interactive entertainment, developing and delivering games, digital content, and gaming experiences to players around the world. EA is a pillar of our local tech sector, an iconic Burnaby company, and we're honored to have them as part of our business community. So thank you. Please join me in thanking all of today's event sponsors. I'd also like to make a quick mention of the annual partners, and I think you can see those on the screen right now. These organizations are valuable members of our business community and are engaged, thoughtful, and community-minded organizations who contribute their support year-round. At the platinum level, we have the Burnaby Now and the BCIT School of Business and Media. At the gold level, we have Fortis BC, Pacific Blue Cross, Simon Fraser University, Electronic Arts, ABC Recycling, and Douglas College. And at the silver level, we have Scotiabank, Trans Mountain, Appia Developments, Port of Vancouver, TD Bank Group, and Alexander Cottage. Thank you very much to our annual partners. I'd also like to welcome and introduce some distinguished guests that we have here today, representatives from Burnaby City Council. We have His Worship, Mayor Hurley, who we'll hear from later. Mayor Hurley, welcome. We have councillors Pietro Calandino, Sav Dhaliwal, Joe Keithley and James Wang. Welcome and good to see you all again, and thanks for coming here today. And we have two councillors-elect, Alison Gu and Mike Hillman. Thank you for joining us today, both of you. I'd now like to invite William Hyde, who's the Community Relations Manager at Fortis BC, to take the stage and say a few words of welcome on behalf of Fortis BC. William.
Thank you, Paul, and hello, everybody. As Paul mentioned, my name is William Hyde. I'm a Community Relations Manager at Fortis BC, and I promise to keep this word from your sponsor relatively brief, so bear with me. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people and reaffirm our emphasis towards meaningful reconciliation. Fortis BC is a natural gas utility serving approximately 1.2 million customers across 135 communities in British Columbia. That includes Burnaby, obviously. Our operations folks and our call center are actually just across the highway here. As an energy utility, we do recognize there is an urgent need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, both here in BC and globally. Fortis BC is rethinking how energy is used to help advance a low-carbon future and is focused on partnering with customers, industry, and government to achieve that. We have set a 30 by 30 target, an ambitious goal of reducing our customers' greenhouse gas emissions by 30% compared to 2007 levels by the year 2030. This supports the province's own goals as laid out in their Clean BC plan. I'm proud to say, in our first full year of working towards our 30 by 30 target, we are on pace. We've managed to reduce our customer emissions by 420,000 tons of CO2 equivalent in 2020, which is approximately 10% of our overall emissions reduction target. We've set an achievable, affordable path for meaningful emissions reduction in meeting that 30 by 30 target based on 4 key areas. The first is investing in low and zero carbon vehicles and infrastructure in the transportation sector. The second is supporting the continued growth of renewable gas from sources such as landfills, farms, hydrogen, and syngas, in reaching Clean BC's 15% target coming from renewables, which is great news. The third is positioning BC as a vital domestic and international liquefied natural gas provider to lower overall greenhouse gas emissions. And fourth, and definitely not least, is increasing investment in conservation and energy efficiency programs and developing innovative energy solutions for homes and businesses. The approach we are taking to meet this 30 by 30 target will not just end at 2030. These activities extend well beyond and can help the province meet its goal of its 80% emissions reduction target by 2050, using both current natural gas and electric systems. We're also happy to announce, and it's been the greater part of the last 2 years of my life, but we're happy to announce that the Pattullo gas line replacement project has received its regulatory approval. The BC Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure is currently replacing the existing Pattullo Bridge, meaning a Fortis BC gas line attached to it will need to be decommissioned. The existing gas line is a vital part of our system, helping to supply more than 35,000 homes and businesses in Burnaby, Coquitlam, and New Westminster. Fortis BC continues to work diligently and collaboratively with the City of Burnaby on this project, which will include a multi-use pedestrian and cycle path as a community benefit when construction is complete. In summary, I'd like to say thank you to the Burnaby Board of Trade, Corey, Paul, and staff for supporting its members throughout the pandemic. And I very much look forward to hearing from Mayor Hurley shortly about City of Burnaby initiatives moving forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, William, and thank you for your ongoing support. But before we introduce Mayor Hurley, I do want to take a few moments just to comment on our business community and what's been going on during the pandemic. When we gathered here, and there were a few of you who were out when we did the same event last July, I think many of us had hoped that the worst of the pandemic experience was behind us, but unfortunately a second wave brought with it more challenges for our province and even more restrictions on how we can conduct business. But through it all, from the initial closures, through the peaks of the second wave, to the reopening and restart that we're experiencing now, I've really been amazed by the resilience, doggedness and optimism of our business community. Our businesses figured out what they needed to do to survive and got to work implementing remote workforces or building out e-commerce sites or launching new business lines or doing whatever was necessary to get through these challenging times. And it's really been an honor to have been leading our Chamber of Commerce network throughout the last year and a half. During this challenging period, I really hope that you've felt us there in your corner. I can attest that our team at the BBOT has never worked harder to produce content or implement programming or to stand up for your interests than we have during the pandemic. And we're going to keep on working for you, our business community, as we move forward into whatever comes next. Now, to introduce formally our guest of honor today, I'd like to welcome John Crawford, who's the President and CEO of Pacific Blue Cross, another one of our platinum sponsors. John?
Thank you, Paul. I would like to begin by acknowledging that our province of British Columbia is located on the homelands of various Indigenous nations and cultures, with over 30 different languages and close to 60 unique dialects are spoken in the province. I ask that all participants in the room and online reflect, acknowledge, and honor in their own way the First Nation land on which they work, live, and play. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a really strange feeling. 1 year later, in-person meeting, and it's really weird. It was great to see everybody a year ago. I was here in July, set tables and a lunch. What's a lunch? It's a new feeling. It's good to see some good things come together, all thanks to the tireless efforts of our public health officials, all 3 levels of government, businesses and organizations that were able to adapt and continue to serve the public, and all British Columbians following the health guidelines and getting the vaccine in incredibly high numbers. In fact, we're still beating the country in BC. Thank you to the Burnaby Board of Trade for hosting this important event and for all of you in the room and those of you attending online. The State of the City Address brings together the business community of Burnaby and local business leaders for the betterment of the city. I know I'm very much looking forward to hear Mayor Mike Hurley's address on the priorities and initiatives of BC. I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate the 2 newly elected, I'm not sure they're in office yet, but they're soon to be in office, Business Council members Alison Gu and Mike Hillman. It will be great to work with you on ensuring business in Burnaby continues to develop and on a thriving urban centre. It's been an unimaginable, challenging 16 months or so for so many in the province. COVID-19 reminded us to be tremendously resilient and adaptable while we navigated the pandemic together. I would like to acknowledge and thank the entire City Council for everything you did to protect Burnaby Council and businesses through the pandemic. Working closely with the health authorities to reduce the spread of COVID when the first virus appeared, supporting Burnaby businesses throughout the pandemic with things like the Open Business Programme, which allowed expanded outdoor seating, merchandise displays and other uses, partnering with Fraser Health to create neighbourhood vaccination clinics, which are challenging to do very quickly, and developing the City of Burnaby's Restart Programme, allowing a careful reopening of facilities and programmes. Speaking as a member of the business community, I'm really excited to see the BC Restart Programme. I think stage 3, stage 4, maybe September, maybe not, depends how good the virus comes out, and how grateful I am where we have COVID restrictions are being lifted so things can return to the new normal, not the old normal, whatever that will look like going forward. It is now my privilege to introduce Mike Hurley. Mike's been long associated with Burnaby and also a member of the Fire Brigade and obviously the Fire Unions, the Beans Mayor since 2018. But thanks to this technology called Wikipedia, I now know that Mike was given the top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award in 2020, which recognises outstanding work by immigrants who have come to Canada and made a positive difference in living in the country. Congratulations, Mike. That's quite an honour, speaking as an immigrant. I don't have an accent. So everyone, please join me. Put your hands together. You can do that now in welcoming Mike Hurley to the podium.
Thank you, John, for that kind introduction, and I don't believe you have an accent either. But before we start, I would just like to take a moment to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territories of the Hunkaminam Squamish-speaking people, and to give appreciation for the opportunity to hold meetings on these territories. Thank you so much to the members of the Burnaby Board of Trade for inviting me here today to give an important update on the state of our city. We have much to discuss today, but I would like to begin with a few words about the COVID-19 pandemic. For more than a year, our lives have been disrupted by this virus. The impacts have rippled through our businesses, our communities, and our families. And I want to express my sincere condolences to those who have lost loved ones to this virus and to those who are still recovering. As a community, we have endured incredible, trying times, but I want to emphasize that our darkest days are now behind us. There is light ahead. Every day when I'm out in the community, I see that light and that determination. I see optimism. And when I see young families, I'm thankful that we were able to keep so many of our residents working during this difficult period. And through it all, we learned that our frontline workers who worked tirelessly to keep us safe did such important work, and I think we should all appreciate that as we move forward and look forward to better things in our future. Getting our immunizations has been a powerful experience for many of us. This spring, while shopping at Costco in Brighton with my wife, we were approached by the pharmacist who said they happened to have some extra doses of the vaccines ready to go. It was not something I expected when I left home that day, but I know many of you may share the same feeling of relief that washed over me. And now, more than 80% of Burnaby residents have received at least one dose. We're proud to be able to contribute one of our civic facilities to this effort. Every day, hundreds of Burnaby residents continue to be vaccinated at the Christine Sinclair Community Center. And by the way, how exciting is it to finally have a civic facility named after the greatest women's soccer player of all time? One of Burnaby's greatest athletes. And last year, the city also provided resources and space for the province to set up a large-scale testing facility at Central Park, the first of its kind. And I should mention the doctors' groups that pulled all that together and did so much great work all throughout this pandemic to keep our community safe. I'm so proud of their work. And throughout the pandemic, we have dedicated city staff to help the public navigate the rapidly shifting public health orders. And over the past 16 months, our call center has fielded more than 9,000 calls, providing valuable support to people in need. In many cases, our staff were directly assisting people who are disadvantaged or experiencing hardship. And throughout the pandemic, we have shown we can adapt quickly. And last month, we conducted a safe by-election to give people a chance to elect 2 new councillors. And those 2 councillors elect are here with us today. We provided 20 safe voting locations across the city and provided 15 advanced voting opportunities. This was no small undertaking, and I'm proud to say that the election ran smoothly. Congratulations to Alison Gu and Mike Hillman. I'll ask them both to stand up, who are both joining us today. The councillors they replaced, Councillors McDonnell and Balco, left an incredible legacy of service to the city. But I know that our newest councillors are more than ready to help move our city forward. Speaking of moving forward, I know many of us are eager to continue moving ahead with the BC's Restart Plan. However, this isn't just a time to return to normal. This is a time to aspire to something even better. As much as the pandemic has put our lives on pause, it's given us a chance to learn from the experiences of marginalized folks in our society. As we build our city, we must do it thoughtfully and address the inequities in our community. Burnaby is one of the most multicultural cities in Canada, and we have always found strength in our diversity. When we confront the big issues in our community, such as housing, transportation, and climate change, we must do it in a way that is inclusive and safe for people of all races and cultures, as well as people across the gender spectrum. In many ways, the pandemic has taught us that we can respond quickly and effectively to big challenges. It illustrated how important it is for the community, businesses, and city government to work together to accomplish our goals. As a city, it has also highlighted the importance of our strong fiscal foundation, which allowed us to ease the burden on our community. For example, this year we were able to offer 0% rate increases on both water and sewer services, despite regional rates continuing to rise. And I can tell you, those rates are rising by 7 and 8%, and we were able to keep it at 0%. That's because of a strong fiscal focus that Burnaby has always been on since the 60s. We were also able to keep property tax increases amongst the lowest in the region. The increase for this year was 2.95%, well below the rates of many of our neighboring municipalities. These savings will keep more money in the pockets of businesses and families hard hit by the pandemic. Despite that, businesses in some classes got an unpleasant surprise this year and may have noticed a sharp increase in their 2021 property tax bill compared to 2020. In 2020, due to the pandemic, the school tax was reduced by 75% by the province. This reduced the overall total commercial property tax bill in 2020 for most businesses by 25% on average. The provincial school tax has been reinstated for 2021, returning provincial property tax charges to 2019 levels. Meantime, the city continues to incorporate digital technology in our daily operations. I am excited to announce that later this year, we will be making it easier and more convenient for businesses to renew their annual license. You will be able to create an online account for your business license that enables you to make an application, renew and pay your annual license, and make updates and changes, as well as print your business license. We'll have more to share on this in the coming months. It's important that we do all we can to help businesses succeed, and that's why I'm proud of the work we accomplished in partnership with the Board of Trade over the last year. We worked with the Business Recovery Task Force to fast-track a program to let restaurants and other businesses convert parking or street space for patio and retail uses. It was a popular program that has livened up our streets and our neighborhoods. Dozens of businesses across Burnaby have joined the program. And this spring, when indoor dining was put on hold, the active Sidewalks Open Businesses program proved to be a lifeline for local business. It's clear that we can learn some lessons from this experiment. The temporary patios and shared street space have made our city a livelier place. And it's easy to see how we can carry that momentum forward through simple steps like making it easier for food trucks to do business here in Burnaby. Other things we have learned from the pandemic, and this is important, the real importance of quality childcare. By providing easy access to childcare, everyone wins. Employees feel confident returning to the office, and employers can find the staff they need. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because that was one of the key recommendations included in the final report from the Burnaby Business Recovery Task Force. I'm pleased to say we're making good progress in addressing this issue. By working together with the provincial government and the school district, hundreds of new childcare spaces are being added at school sites right across our community. That includes 4 new centers that have opened over the past year at Montecito, West Reed and Cascade Heights, and Capitol Hill Schools. And as we continue to move forward with our Child Care Action Plan, we will open more sites across the city. So there will be more options whether you live in a Metrotown condo with a 5-year-old or if you're in Brentwood with a toddler. And we continue to work with the Board of Trade to implement the action items outlined by the task force. As we come out of the pandemic, I believe this will be a period of great renewal for the city of Burnaby. At a foundational level, we're starting in a position of strength. Despite the pandemic, new construction in 2020 in Burnaby was valued almost $1.5 billion. It was our second highest year on record. I think this reflects the fact investors and developers have bought into our vision of building complete communities. By engaging in genuine conversation with residents and businesses, we've laid the groundwork for shared success. Much attention has been paid over the years to our major town centers, such as Brentwood and Lougheed. As those areas mature, we're focusing renewed energy on our emerging neighborhoods. For example, we continue to engage the public as we update community plans for what we call urban villages. These include the Bainbridge neighborhood, located around Sperling SkyTrain station, and the Lockdale neighborhood, located where Hastings Street turns into Barnett Highway. In the coming years, we will be updating the community plans for more of these urban villages, built around transit hubs with a diverse mix of housing options as well as commercial areas and green spaces. These urban villages will enable future residents to work, play, and shop only steps from their front doors. These villages will also include important green spaces. And aren't we so lucky to have a city where 25% of the land is dedicated to parks and conservation areas? There are more than 150 parks here in Burnaby. And during the pandemic, we were certainly reminded what an incredible asset these green spaces were. That's why as a city, we are making it easier for people to walk, bike, or take transit to their local parks. We have accelerated our program to build our network of sidewalks and urban trails through Burnaby. Personally, I feel like I've walked almost every sidewalk in Burnaby over the past year. But nothing frustrates me more than walking along a beautiful sidewalk only to have it come to an abrupt end. We have already committed to building approximately 30 kilometers of new sidewalks and multi-use paths in 2021, prioritizing areas near schools, parks, community centers, and transit. We know that this is a priority for Burnaby residents. They told us as much during consultations for our transportation plan. And our staff have heard stories of how installing just one section of sidewalk can have a transformational impact on a neighborhood. For example, on Winston Street, the new sidewalk has created a safe route for clients of the Greater Vancouver Food Bank to walk from the Production Way SkyTrain station when they're forced to go to look for some food. But you might be surprised that a new sidewalk can sometimes be a hard sell for people on a residential street. This was quite a surprise for me, I got to tell you. We've got broad support for our sidewalks program, but when the gravel shoulder you've been parking on for the last decade is about to be replaced with a sidewalk, sometimes people quickly have a change of heart. That's why it's so important to connect with the community, to let them know how important sidewalks are on a local level as well as for the community at large. It's about accessibility for everyone, including seniors, people who use mobility devices, and young children. Building a walkable city is a key aspect of both our transportation plan and our climate action plan. Sidewalks connect our community, facilitate health and fitness, and reduce the vehicle emissions that do contribute to climate change. And as you know, when people are walking, they're more likely to stop and visit local stores, providing a boost to our local community. I'm proud of the progress we're making on sidewalks, but we know it will take more than that to achieve our ambitious climate targets. And that's why it's so encouraging to see Burnaby businesses signing on to important initiatives like the Building Benchmark BC program. Today, buildings account for almost 50% of all carbon emissions citywide here in Burnaby. The pilot program helps property owners and managers better understand their building's energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. We have already signed up more than 30 city facilities to this benchmarking project, and the owners of 19 buildings have also signed up to the program. Over the long term, this data will help participants save money by making targeted investments that reduce carbon emissions. In our push to cut carbon, there are great opportunities for local businesses. Our recent partnership with Aether Catalyst Solutions, a Burnaby company, is a great example. This year we started using Aether emissions abatement technology on select pieces of our equipment using small motors. I was surprised to learn that small motors such as the one in commercial lawnmowers can produce as much pollution in a single hour as a 2017 Toyota Camry driving 300 miles. Aether's catalytic technology will help reduce the emissions generated by the city's municipal equipment. And the data generated from this pilot project will help the company further optimize its product. It's a fantastic win-win for the city, the business, and the environment. As I mentioned earlier, I think we're entering a really exciting phase for a city. Residents will soon be able to join new, incredible recreation facilities. In Edmonds, a new arena is under construction, and that will be named the Rosemary Brown Arena in honor of the politician and social justice champion. When complete, the two NHL-sized ice sheets will provide an opportunity amenity for recreation and competitive sports. At Burnaby Lake, we have unveiled the detailed designs for a new Burnaby Lake Sports Complex. This facility will replace C.G. Brown Pool and Burnaby Lake Arena with a spectacular new facility that will be a draw for residents all across Burnaby. Once complete, this facility will help transform the Burnaby Lake Precinct into one of the top sports, and if I have my way, the top sport destination in Canada. In addition to the world-class arena and swimming pool, fit to host major competitions, we're expanding the facilities on Burnaby Lake for rowing. Burnaby Lake is already considered one of the premier places to train singles in North America. We have already completed a number of upgrades and will continue to expand this world-class facility. And as I mentioned earlier, the city is already getting huge value from the newest addition to a recreation portfolio. In February, we took over ownership of the former Fortia Sport and Health facility, and we've renamed it the Christine Sinclair Community Center. In addition to serving as a vaccination clinic, Burnaby residents have already had the opportunity to use the gym and take part in fitness classes at the new community center. And as we transition out of the pandemic, we'll have more exciting news to share as we expand programming at this spectacular facility. If there's one message I'd like you to take home today, is that the city is moving quickly to deliver on the priorities we have developed in partnership with our community. One lesson I've learned during my time as mayor is that when you engage in genuine dialogue with the public, you can get a mandate to move quickly on issues we all care about. 2 years ago, we formed the Mayor's Task Force on Community Housing. And since then, on an issue that's often rife with controversy and polarized debate, Burnaby has moved quickly and decisively to respond to our affordability crisis. We adopted one of the most robust and progressive tenant assistance policies in Canada, ensuring people can stay in their neighborhoods at the same rent. We adopted BC's first rental use zoning policy, which requires a minimum of 20% below market rental housing in most new developments citywide. We identified and initiated pre-zoning of 5 city-owned sites for more than 1,100 units of non-market and affordable housing, which would increase non-market housing in Burnaby by 20%. And we have partnered with BC Housing to open 3 shelters for people experiencing who are at risk of homelessness. It might sound counterintuitive, but we were able to move quickly on these actions because we took the time to slow down and have a real conversation with the public. But we also realized that communication isn't just a one-time exercise. And that's why this past year, we returned to the task force and residents to ask, how are we doing? And I do believe that's the first time that's ever happened in a municipality. This input was vital as we finalized HOME, Burnaby's housing and homeless strategy this spring. The strategy is a 10-year roadmap for detailed action on housing in our community. The vision is of Burnaby as a place where people can find a home, afford a home, and feel at home. And I think the last piece is so important, because when you're building a more equitable society for people who are disadvantaged, you have to start where they live. And that's why we're so invested in finding ways to making housing more accessible to everyone in Burnaby. It takes more than just building more housing. It's about rethinking the way we design our communities. We need more housing types so that when you downsize, you don't have to leave your neighborhood. And when your family is growing, you can find an affordable option that provides the space you need. These are the types of actions that will help us address the inequalities that still exist in Burnaby. Because at the end of the day, we all need to ask ourselves, what kind of city do we want Burnaby to be? For many of us, Burnaby is already a fantastic place to live and work, with abundant green space and a thriving business community. For myself, I can take a stroll in the evening and feel safe when I explore our city. But I know my experience isn't universal, and that people of color and women might not always feel the same way. It's important that their voices are heard, action is taken to ensure that everyone feels safe in our community. And that's why we drafted the Community Safety Plan last year, a comprehensive document which wraps up so many different initiatives to make our city safer. This plan covers everything from our earthquake strategy to our pandemic response to our plan to provide better lighting on city streets. One key initiative in this plan was the establishment by Burnaby RCMP of a gang enforcement and education team. In addition to targeting and preventing gang violence, this unit works with at-risk youth to deter them from getting involved in gang life. And this program is taking on even greater importance given the flare-up in gang violence across Metro Vancouver that we have all seen this year. As a whole, I think that so much of what we are doing these days is serving to create a city that is not only safer, but also more active and enjoyable. Building out our network of sidewalks is making our streets safer and is encouraging more people to get out to explore their neighborhoods on foot. Building out our cycling network is also serving to make our neighborhoods, urban villages, and town centers more vibrant. At the same time, adding more eyes in the street will continue to improve safety for everyone. The city we are building is a Burnaby where we all feel a deep sense of connection to our local businesses, to our neighborhoods, and to our green spaces. So many great things are happening in our city these days, and I've barely scratched the surface. So I encourage everyone to reach out, ask questions, and learn more about our projects. We greatly value your ideas and input as we work to ensure our community continues to thrive. Before I wrap up, I want to thank everyone in the community for stepping up and doing your part over the last year and a half. You looked out for each other and kept each other safe. And you stepped up when it mattered, notably by raising $150,000 for the Greater Vancouver Food Bank this spring. And I know that many members of the Board of Trade helped out with this essential fundraiser. And I want to thank you all. From our frontline workers and essential staff to the people who diligently followed Dr. Henry's guidance, everyone played a part in getting us to where we are today. I look forward to working with the Board of Trade, businesses, and the community to build an even more successful and equitable city. Thank you again to the Burnaby Board of Trade for inviting me here to give this State of the City address. And thank you to all of you for taking the time to attend or to watch via live stream. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hurley. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Joanne Curry, VP External Relations with SFU, up to the podium here to say a few words before we transition to our Q&A. Joanne.
Great. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Mayor Hurley, for your vision and leadership and incredible progress in areas like equity, diversity, and inclusion. Some of you may have seen me. I tried to start a standing ovation. We're not used to it. We're used to being at home on our computers sitting, so I realized it wasn't due to the quality of the talk, but we're just a bit rusty. It's so wonderful to join you today, and I've always looked forward to this event because it gives business and community people a chance to see what the city has been doing and the vision for the future. And we learn about the priorities and then have a chance to engage in a very forward-looking discussion. It's been an incredibly difficult year for everyone, and I think that's the definition of understatement. And COVID-19 has challenged all of us. But we're pulling through by pulling together. And on behalf of President Joy Johnson and everyone from SFU, I just wanted to thank everyone at the city, the mayor, the council, and the incredible staff that you have for your leadership. And I think what's been shown over the last 6 months is how vital local government is in a crisis. Hopefully the worst is behind us. I don't think this is wood, but I have never been more excited for a fall semester to begin. I can't wait to welcome tens of thousands of students, staff, faculty back to campus and to see our beautiful SFU Burnaby campus once again bustle with activity. Our campus is located on the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. And our hearts still go out to all of the members of our Indigenous community on campus and in communities given the horrendous findings of mass graves across Canada now. But it is going to be great to be back, and it's what a university is all about, especially SFU. We are a community. We are Canada's most community-engaged university, and we really treasure the relationships that we've built with the communities we serve, and especially with the city of Burnaby. For generations, the city of Burnaby and SFU have really grown together, and really emphasized by the mayor's address, but we share the goal of a healthy, safe, vibrant, and sustainable community. And of course, I have to add, with efficient and green public transportation. I couldn't resist. And our work with mayor, council, and staff on important projects ranging from dialogues on social housing to co-hosting the Burnaby Festival of Learning to research studies that inform community planning help us advance that common vision. We're also very proud of the contribution that we make to Burnaby's economy and quality of life. In the last 10 years alone, the province has invested $2 billion in new facilities and upgrade on the Burnaby campus, including housing, student housing, which relieves pressure in the community for housing, recreational facilities, and we can't wait to show off our new stadium that will be accessible and benefit the whole community. We have more than $1 billion planned in construction in the future, many new projects, a First Peoples Gathering House, the Edward and Marianne Gibson Art Museum. So like the city, have many exciting plans to help drive the city's economic recovery. So there's lots to be excited about as we come out of the pandemic and start laying a foundation for the future. And I certainly agree with the mayor that we have an incredible foundation in Burnaby, and also want to commend the Burnaby Board of Trade for its amazing work over the past 16 months to support not only businesses but community. So thanks to everyone for joining us. And with that, I'd like to introduce the discussion portion of this event today. Questions have been sought from event registrants ahead of time, and using those, the Burnaby Board of Trade has compiled a number of discussion points for Paul to tackle with Mayor Hurley. So I'll pass the floor back to Paul Holden and Mayor Hurley for this conversation, and it was great to see everybody today live and virtual.
Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate you being here today, and thank you, Mayor Hurley, for joining us today and for sharing your perspectives on what the city has been doing and what we can look forward to in the coming year. You touched on one issue, and this is forgive me for it being a bit of a theme here for the first couple of questions, but the issue of property tax. And when we have been getting input from our members over the last few weeks, and certainly prior to this event, property tax was something that was front and center from. Now, we know that there was a bit of sticker shock this year when people saw their property bills, and that was largely due to the provincial government ending the COVID property tax cut. But it's still a big number for a lot of businesses, and we've seen some people share those numbers with us, and some of them are pretty significant. So can you speak to the issue of property tax from a city perspective? How do you and council set those rates? How do you think we stack up against other cities? And what other factors do you think you could share with those businesses that are currently looking at their bill or have just paid their bill and are thinking, wow, this was quite something?
Yeah, well, you know, and rightly so. We have seen some of those tax bills as well. You know, and it certainly was a sticker shock, and mostly related to the school tax, which of course, none of that tax comes to the city in any case. It goes to, although we're the collectors, that money all goes to the school tax, as does, you know, another 8%, which goes to Metro Vancouver and TransLink. So of the taxes we collect here in the city, we receive 52% of those taxes. And much of that 52% is already governed by statutes, where we have to put certain pieces of our money. So we don't have much flexibility on what we can do. We base our tax rates basically on our operations. And whatever our operations takes to run, the taxes get set at that level and spread throughout all the payers throughout the system. You know, if you compare 2.95, if you look at Vancouver's 5%, I think New West is a similar amount. You know, so we're doing everything we can. And remember, our bills keep stacking up during this time too, and the increases that everyone else has seen through buying materials we see as well. So we have worked really hard to try and keep our taxes as low as we possibly can, and we certainly recognize it's a huge bill for some businesses. But you know, I think we stack up well. We're very fortunate that, you know, we have money in the bank to build facilities, so taxpayers, everyday taxpayers, don't get billed for those like they do in other cities, because we have set money aside for that very progress. So I realize it's a big bill, and it's been even more emphasized this year because of the school tax, but I think we've done everything we can to try and keep it as low as possible.
Thanks. And on that point, with regards to posting surpluses and with having those reserves, a question that we often get is, can some of that be used to more directly reduce the tax bills?
Yeah, well, this is always a big question. You know, Burnaby's rich. Why are you raising the taxes? And you know, we do have 1.6 billion in what's called a separate fund, but we are not allowed to use that fund to fund operations. That is set aside to build new facilities. It's under statute, that's the way it is. And we wish we could use some of that money to help out. But because of the community charter and how it's set up, we're not allowed to use that money for those purposes. And under the community charter, the money we set aside each year has to be recorded as what they call surplus. We can't use any other word for it. So it looks like surplus, but really it's a savings that's going towards building future facilities for us. So really, when you see surplus, it's not really surplus, but that's what it has to be called under the community charter.
Thanks. And one of the issues that I think most people here and watching this online understand is a major contributor to the tax bill is the assessment process. And I think we're all familiar with the highest and best use concept, where a business owner may well be assessed on the value of, in many respects, the air above their business and what that can be used for. Now, that's obviously a provincial decision, but what can the city do? Is the city able to advocate or provide any support for revisiting that process?
Well, we have really been advocating. Our staff have been taking a lead along with other cities through the UBCM and others to ask for a split assessment to be allowed in certain instances within the city. And we're been pushing that really hard, and we've really been disappointed that the province hasn't moved towards that model, because we think it would give much more equity to small businesses especially. So we will keep pushing that issue with the province and with UBCM, and I know the Board of Trade is asking for similar split assessments to be allowed. So we will keep pushing to try and find that help for our business.
Thanks. And on that issue, for those of you that want to learn a bit more, have a look on our website, bbot.ca, and you can see in one of our advocacy pieces there some of the work we've been doing on that particular issue, and I think it's a really important one for us all to work on together. You mentioned the Housing Task Force, and I was very pleased to have been a member of that process and of that task force to develop a plan addressing housing availability and affordability. But obviously, what we've seen is in spite of the pandemic, and perhaps surprising to many of us, housing seems to be going up and perhaps more out of reach than ever. What have you been thinking about as what a potential city response might be towards that, and how that might work into the work that's been going on through the task force and through city staff?
Yeah, it's really been unexplainable how those prices keep going up and up, where we all thought the opposite was going to happen. But again, we have a plan in place that we know that if we're successful with our plan and working with partners in the community, private sector, other levels of government, and any other partners we can find, that we can have enough affordable housing within the city to allow people to stay here, work here, so that businesses have a workforce here. And we do have a plan, and you're very well aware of that plan. You were on that task force, which wasn't easy. But we're doing everything we can through our plan, and we'll stick with our plan so that we can let our workforces and our most vulnerable and everyone, young families, seniors, have a place to live here in our city. So that's really our goal, and I'm very confident we're going to get there.
Thank you. And actually, just before I get to the next question, talking about task forces, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you and the others at the city for your work on our business recovery task force. It's rare to see that level of cooperation, I think, between a Board of Trade or Chamber of Commerce and the municipality and the community at large, and it was a great opportunity, and thank you for your support on that. And we've had some of which you mentioned, we've had some great outcomes from that business task force. So thanks again.
And thank you for having me on there too. I certainly learned a lot from many in this room throughout that process as well.
Yeah. There are some task force members in the room, so thanks to them. Yeah. Thanks to them too. The heat wave, which kind of was pretty extreme just over a week ago, and we later found out contributed, sadly, to a significant increase in unexpected deaths in the city. Extreme weather events like this are happening more and more. You did mention some of what the city is doing. Perhaps you could just elaborate a little bit on what the city is doing to mitigate some of what might happen again in this area, and what actions, after the climate emergency plan that came in a couple of years ago, what can we look forward to the city doing in this area?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that was devastating news, especially for myself as a former first responder to hear of so many deaths within our city, and I send condolences to all those families who witnessed that, and it was a terrible 3 to 4 days here within our city. But we did set up some cooling centers throughout that time. Was it enough? Those are things we'll measure going forward. We always learn as we go along. But I think from the climate, obviously, climate change is real, and I think that was just another reminder of that that we are getting a lot warmer, and I believe there's going to be many more of these events. So I did talk about some of the efforts we're making towards climate change, and I think a big part of that is, you know, really digging in and getting a bit more aggressive even on things like planting trees, you know, having cooler, keeping our streets cooler and our parks cooler, so that people have somewhere to go for respite if and when. I think it's more when we have more of these heat facilities. But I think what I really learned out of all of this is that we need to become more resilient as a city. I don't think we can rely on outside help. We saw that the 911 system really failed us in this situation. It's something we really have to have a look at. We have to have a look at being able to stand on our own, almost like an earthquake or anything else, where we need to be able to stand alone for up to 7 days. And I really think we need to go back with our staff, our emergency staff, and all our staff and figure out a better way to manage this situation when it happens again. But, you know, all the actions we're taking on climate change will hopefully drive us towards a bit cooler facility, but we have to get more aggressive on what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Thanks. We've still got quite a few questions. I'm going to look over to my team to see how much time we have left. I'm assuming that's 5 minutes, not 5 questions. Right. So we're getting near the end here. A couple of things, I'll try to group some of these together. A couple of questions around the transportation plan, and see if you can get through this without saying the G word. I'm looking at SFU there. So see if you can get through this. But the transportation plan, the Board of Trade had a task force that we put together where we submitted 22 recommendations. Can you give us an update on where the plan currently is?
Yeah, and we have seen some drafts of the plan, and we think it's going to make a real difference. And I know, there's some concerns. Certainly, I have these concerns around plans of shifting our vehicle mode and how we move around our city. And I know there's lots of concerns amongst tradespeople, for example, who really need to have their vehicles with them. There are many people who can't move around and do their jobs without their vehicles. So I don't want to get into demonizing vehicles, because I think that's the wrong way to go. But I do think we have to have a real shift in the modes, in how we're operating modes, and encouraging people who can go to work on transit, mass transit, or who can ride their bike to work, or who can walk to work, to encourage them to do that, to free up the road spaces for moving goods, and for those people who really need their vehicles when they go to work. So there's a lot of work ahead on that, but I really think we need to do it in the smartest possible way, and I don't think we do that by demonizing vehicles. I think we need to explain to everyone why we're doing what we're doing, listen and learn what our residents want, and I think we can get there. Our transportation plan is going to be very aggressive, and we look forward to get it up and running. But I think we have to do it in a really thoughtful way.
Yeah, thank you. A couple more quick ones. Another project that I was involved in the early stages of looking at just before the pandemic really started was the discussions around a convention center in Metrotown. Has there been any progress on that, or is that something that's kind of stalled as a result of what's been going on?
No, we haven't stalled. We still have our, we hired some outside help to, help us work through the logistics of how it would all come together, whether it's really needed in Burnaby or not. And so far that it seems to say that we do need something on that line here in Burnaby, especially to grow Metrotown into a true town center, which is where we want to go with Metrotown. So we're still working through the early stages of that, but certainly the intent of the city is to keep going down that road, see if it makes sense for the city to have a facility like that, or whether we partner with the private sector. But certainly it's something that we're quite excited to continue down that path.
Good, that's good to hear. Penultimate question, quickie. 3 years in office coming up this fall. What would you say you're most proud of, and what would you say you found a bit harder than you might have expected?
Well, definitely most proud of the housing work we have done. And I think we have really set a standard for North America, and all the people who worked in the task force, all the residents and all the businesses who got so engaged and who got so excited to be included in such a transformative way of looking at housing and being so inclusive within our city. So certainly most proud of that work, most proud of our council for the way they have engaged in the process, and most proud of our residents for really stepping up and letting us know what they see and what they would like to see. So that's definitely the work I'm most proud of to this point. The biggest challenge, and you'll find this kind of funny, is that sidewalk thing, because people say they want sidewalks, then you go to give them sidewalks and they rebel against them. So you know, it's a funny, kind of a funny one, but it's true. It's certainly been the biggest surprise to me, because when I knock on doors, everyone's in my ear about, I want a sidewalk. And then you go to give them sidewalks and they go, oh no, can't take away my front. So that's really been probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, interesting. And the final question, and we had lots and lots of people asking this one, do you think England's going to beat Italy on Sunday?
Yeah. So you're going to ask an Irishman if England's going to win.
We have some Italians in the room here, which is why I asked the question. But anyway, I won't put you on the spot on that one. But thanks again for coming today, Mayor Hurley. We always look forward to this and always appreciate you coming along. And hopefully, and I know we said this last year, hopefully next year we'll be in a bigger room with a lot more people, and we can get back to those days of filling the rooms to come and celebrate this event with you. So thanks again. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And as a token of our appreciation for you coming here today, we'll be making a donation in your name to a charity of your choice.
I thought you were going to give me an England shirt.
Well, I've got my West Ham mask here. I've got a spare one at home if you'd like one. So before we go, I'd like to remind everybody that the nominations are open for the Excellence Awards. You know, last year at this point, we said to everyone, you know, it's a really important time, perhaps more important than ever, to celebrate some of the great work that businesses have been doing within the community here. And that's equally true this year. So last year we had a phenomenal amount of nominations, looking for the same this year. So please have a look on the website and you'll find how you can nominate a business, nominate your own business, nominate your favorite business. And then we'll see how they fare in the nominations. And hopefully we'll have a lot of you joining us in November at the awards gala. Thanks again to our sponsors. We've acknowledged them today, but it's always worth acknowledging the sponsors for the event. We really appreciate your support. And thanks everyone on the live stream for joining us today. We really appreciate you supporting the events and the work that we do as well. So thanks everybody. Thanks for coming today. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.